Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nayan. I'm with Indonesian News Service. I have a question regarding US-China trade war, which is underway right now. US Treasury Secretary Scott Pessant yesterday said that there will be a global wholesome response to Chinese export controls on rare earths. My question is that did the US side raise those concerns in the G20 meeting? Sorry, should I continue? So my question is, did the US side raise those concerns in the G20 meeting, and what is South Africa's position as the chair of G20? Thank you, Chair.
All right, DM?
DG, do you want to take it?
Well, thank you, DM. Well, I think the question was really about whether that was raised in the context of the G20 discussions, and the short answer is no. Trade was, of course, discussed in the framework working group itself, and the outcome of those discussions are reflected in two places. One in the chair summary that you have in front of you today in the Global Economic Outlook section, as well as in the communique that was agreed upon in Durban. And I'll refer you to the fourth paragraph of today's chair summary to give you a sense of how those discussions ended up. And the key point I would highlight here is the fact that the line that talks about the way that we need to, A, address excessive imbalances throughout the world, but do so in a way that contributes to an open global economy and without compromising sustainable global growth. And then both this chair summary as well as the declaration from Durban earlier this year spoke about the importance of the WTO to advance trade issues and acknowledge that the agreed upon rules in the WTO are integral as part of the global trading system. So if you read through the language that you find in this chair summary, that will give you a sense of how those matters, to the extent that they were raised in our discussions, were resolved by the G20 members through their deliberations.
Okay, let's take two at a time. As I will take the gentleman over here and then the lady in front.
Hi, my name is Magnus Sherman. I'm with Octus in London. I wanted to touch on the point about preferred creditor status. Some of the current African debt restructurings are being held up by certain African institutions claiming preferred creditor status. Was that discussed during the meetings, and are we any closer to a sharper definition of what constitutes PCS?
Okay.
Hello. Fung Skovgaard from Investgain Media from London. You were talking about technology and innovation. And we talk a lot about AI, but I would like to understand whether you have mentioned blockchain. Blockchains mean, I'm referring to digital bonds. It's a way to raise capital for countries and also to help G20.
Okay.
DG Shad.
Blockchain.
You want to start? Yeah,
Blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think that what is important about the G20 is an issue that is relevant for the G20 community that has cross-border implications. So one of the reasons why we have a discussion at the G20 on financial innovation is because there are two facets to it. The first is that financial innovation has cross-border implications. We know that with stable coins, for example, what you do in one country can have an impact on the other country. The second issue is we all get worried about regulatory arbitrage. So if one country introduces a regulation that's slightly more developed than the other, they're different, you want to be able to ensure that you don't have, you don't contribute to illegal capital flows and so on. We're not committed at the G20 to a technology choice. So blockchain is very important. I think the G20 has a very critical discussion of how should we globally think about crypto assets? How should we globally think about stable coins? And it is a forum for different countries to air their views. Some are more enthusiastic about introducing legislation now. Some play the, celebrate the positive side. Others may celebrate, may raise caution about the negative side. So the conversation is a broader conversation on financial innovation. Of it. Blockchain would be a part of it, but I don't think we get into the details of blockchain. It's more the overarching concerns and benefits about financial innovation. It's a follow-up there, I think.
Okay, can...
Not about stable coins, not about cryptos, not about coins or anything, just doing digital bonds so everyone can, because we are talking about saving. Actually, right now we have a case study as Prince Albert in your country privately, and it is working, and that's what we try to hear your view on how to replicate. Because we have a framework, we have a case study. So we are talking about digital bonds. We are not talking about cryptos or coins.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is quite a narrow topic. We haven't really discussed it. As I said, it's been a more overarching discussion on innovation. Thank you.
Okay. As part of our modernization, we had run some tests. We had experimented with using a blockchain technology in the payment space, where we were able to tokenize the payments, and we proved that we could actually settle the volume that we would normally settle in a day within an hour. That volume would be settled. We took that project further, because you talked about a digital bond, and we tested it with the South African Reserve Bank debentures, where we tokenized the debentures, digitized them, and it was proved that it could actually be done fast. But for this thing to fully work, you actually needed to modernize the entire payment system. And so we are busy with the payment ecosystem modernization. It's a big project which is preceded by the establishment of a payments utility, which was formerly known as BankServe, which is now Pay Inc. So you're going to be using that. So in that ecosystem, over and above the utility, you're going to be introducing a digital ID and all of that stuff. So your question was very narrow. It was about a bond. We have tested this with payments. We have tested it with debentures. The next phase was testing with the treasury bills of the treasury. But we are doing an entire payments ecosystem modernization.
There was a question which requires DG's answer. I think it was from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matt.
Yes, happy to come in on that. So the question was about whether the issue of preferred creditor status was discussed at all during the course of the presidency. And it came up in a few different areas. Number one, of course, within the context of the common framework for debt restructuring. That's an issue that was discussed there. And just to alert you to the fact that we do have a few, if you go to the annexure of the chair's summary, you will find some of the reports that were produced as part of the outputs of the G20 presidency for South Africa. And one of those were the fact sheets for the common framework for debt treatment, where we did a few case studies where these issues were raised, and I think the important point to make there, and sorry, I should add that there was also a side event on private creditors' involvement in common framework debt restructuring that was done with the Paris Club earlier this year as well. And I think the key issue to mention there is that from our perspective, as we say in the statement as well, the common framework remains the key vehicle through which these kinds of debt restructuring happens. It also remains the mechanism through which issues such as the preferential creditor status is discussed and how that is managed. And I think the other point to make is that we are heartened by the progress that the common framework has made over the last few years in terms of its ability to resolve these debt restructurings a lot more quickly than was the case with the first few. If you look at the experience of the latest countries versus some of those who came very early on, like Chad and others. So certainly there has been progress. It remains on the agenda of the G20, and it remains a discussion for further refinement, including how preferential creditor status is handled within the context of the common framework.
Okay, I've got a question online, and it's from Stephanie Sung, Chief Correspondent from Tax Notes Today, International, USA. What was discussed regarding